By mid-1942, the Royal Hungarian Army had adopted the 40M and 41M Turán tanks. Yet many within the military still recognized a pressing need for a mobile artillery platform capable of supporting both infantry and armored units. Combat experience on the Eastern Front alongside the Wehrmacht highlighted the effectiveness of the German StuG III assault gun, which excelled at providing direct fire support in coordination with infantry and tanks. Inspired by this, Hungarian military planners began exploring the concept of converting the Turán chassis into a similar vehicle. Though the Turán tanks themselves would not see combat until 1944, design work on an assault gun variant began in the summer of 1942. These efforts led to the development of the 43M Zrínyi II, which entered production in early 1943, armed with a 105mm howitzer for infantry support. A companion vehicle, the 44M Zrínyi I, was also envisioned as a tank destroyer equipped with a high-velocity 75mm anti-tank gun. However, the lack of domestically produced guns delayed the project, and only the Zrínyi II reached series production. Despite its limited numbers, only 76 were completed, the Zrínyi II was issued to Hungary's newly established assault artillery branch. Of the 8 planned battalions, just 2 were fully equipped. Nevertheless, Zrínyi II crews played a significant role in the war's final phase, seeing heavy combat against Soviet armor and Romanian troops across Galicia, the Carpathian Mountains, and during the siege of Budapest. The vehicles were often outnumbered and outgunned, leading to high losses in both personnel and equipment. Even so, the assault artillery branch earned a reputation for determination and bravery, with its members becoming some of the most decorated soldiers in the Royal Hungarian Army by the war's end. Like many neutral nations in the early stages of the Second World War, Hungary and its military leadership closely observed events on the front lines. The swift German victories in France and the Low Countries highlighted the effectiveness of the StuG III assault gun, prompting the commander of the 8th Army Corps to recommend a similar vehicle for Hungarian forces in a report to High Command, dated February 29, 1941. At the time, Hungary's armored forces were limited to light reconnaissance vehicles such as the CV-35 tankette, 38M Torda light tank, and 39M Chaba armored car. These had only seen limited action in Czechoslovakia and Yugoslavia, but their shortcomings became very obvious during Hungary's early involvement in Operation Barbarossa. Against Soviet forces, their thin armor, underpowered weapons, and poor off-road capabilities made it clear that Hungary's mobile units were unprepared for a major conflict. Later in June of 1942, a second report on the employment of assault guns within the Hungarian army would be received by the High Command, prepared this time by one József Barankay. Shortly after he submitted this report, Barankay would serve with an artillery battalion attached to the 1st Field Armored Division, a part of the 2nd Hungarian Army which fought on the Eastern Front between 1942 and 1943. Due to this experience being an artillery officer who worked in conjunction with armored vehicles, he would later be chosen as the founding head of the Army's assault artillery branch. However, we are getting ahead of ourselves. By July 1942, with 2 formal reports advocating for a domestic assault gun, the Hungarian Ministry of Defense officially initiated development, tasking Vice Manfred Steel and Metal Works already involved in the Turán tank project with the design and construction. Major General Arpad Toroslai led the effort on behalf of the Army, working alongside Vice Manfred's technical director Janusz Gorbuli. Using existing resources, the team began work in September 1942 by integrating the Turán chassis with a 40-43M 105mm howitzer, a weapon already available in surplus after being rejected by the Army. The gun's mounting appeared straightforward, though the chassis had to be widened by over 40 cm to accommodate it. Final design plans were drawn up by Erno Kovacsy, chief designer of the tank division. A prototype was built using the soft steel Turán test hull and underwent testing from December 12, 1942 to January 28, 1943. Despite some criticism regarding its performance, the vehicle was accepted into service. It was named the Zrínyi II in honor of Zrínyi Miklos, a 17th century Croatian-Hungarian military leader, and marked Hungary's first serious step toward developing an effective homegrown assault gun. Before testing of the prototype had even finished, an official order for 40 Zrínyi assault guns was placed on the 3rd of February 1943. Sources contradict on what body placed the initial order, with it being either the Hungarian army themselves or the Ministry of Defense. With each vehicle coming in at 440,000 pengu, it was by far the most expensive armored vehicle produced by Hungary during the war. Responsibility for Hungary's new assault guns was outlined in the Huba III plan, which took effect on March 1, 1942. This plan detailed long-term goals for armored vehicle production and development through 1944, including the introduction of the Zrínyi assault gun and the creation of a dedicated assault artillery branch. However, the very heavy losses suffered by the Second Hungarian Army on the Eastern Front in early 1943 forced a complete change of national defense planning. As a result, the Huba III plan was abandoned and replaced by the Szabolcs plan on October 1, 1943. While aimed primarily at rebuilding shattered frontline units, the new plan also heavily supported the Zrínyi program and the assault artillery branch's formation, further integrating assault guns into Hungary's military structure. The foundation of the new branch began in January 1943, led by József Barankay and a group of officers who had closely studied German Sturmgeschütz units and received limited training from them. Using borrowed vehicles and army volunteers, they organized a series of successful training programs. This culminated in the formation of the 1st Assault Artillery Battalion at Heimasker training camp in October 1943. After additional training and the arrival of the first 40 Zrínyi IIs, 7 new battalions, the 7th, 10th, 13th, 16th, 20th, 24th, and 25th, were officially established on April 1, 1944. Although a follow-up batch of 50 Zrínyi IIs was planned for 1945, only the 1st and 10th battalions would ever be fully equipped before the end of the war. As much as the army appreciated the development of an assault gun, they were much more interested in a tank destroyer variant, and actually prioritized it as a part of the new plan. This is how both versions of the vehicle got their names, with a tank destroyer named the Zrínyi I and the assault gun designated as the Zrínyi II. Though the army planned to have them built in a 2-to-1 ratio with 2 tank destroyers built for every assault gun, domestic production of a 75mm gun for the Zrínyi I proved difficult. As a result, it was decided to keep production of the assault gun going until production could be switched over permanently. However, only a single prototype of the tank destroyer was ever built and tested, never seeing combat. The Zrínyi II stood out visually among World War II armored vehicles due to its distinctive hunchbacked superstructure. Based on the chassis of the 40M 41M Turán tanks, the most notable modification was a 40 cm widening to accommodate its large 10.5 cm howitzer. This gun dominated the vehicle's front profile, mounted in a large armored ball mount within a 75mm thick front plate sloped at 20 degrees. To the gun's right was the driver's vision port, protected by an armored cover that could be opened or closed. On the left, the gunner's sight was integrated into the gun mount. Below the gun, the glacis plate was just 13mm thick but angled steeply at 75 degrees and featured several small maintenance hatches. The lower front plate was more robust, 75mm thick at a 60-degree angle, and included towing hooks. A 50mm plate further reinforced the underside, though the belly armor itself was only 13mm thick. The fighting compartment's roof was constructed from multiple angular plates, also 13mm thick, creating the Zrínyi II's signature hunched silhouette. The vehicle's side armor, including both the fighting compartment and engine bay, was 25mm thick. The engine deck was thinner at 13mm to accommodate large maintenance hatches for easy access to the drivetrain. Rear armor was similarly 25mm thick. Starting in mid-1944, Zrínyi IIs deployed to the front began receiving side skirts, visually similar to the German Schützen. These were introduced to protect against Soviet anti-tank rifles, which were abundant in the Red Army and quite capable of penetrating the thinner side armor of assault guns and tanks. Despite weighing around 21.6 tons, the Zrínyi II was capable of reaching speed up to 43 km per hour on roads, powered by a 260 horsepower Weissmann-Fred V8 engine, the same used in the Turán tank. Its wider chassis allowed for nearly double the fuel capacity of the Turán, extending its operational range to approximately 280 kilometers. The suspension system was also carried over from the Turán, featuring 2 bogie sets per side, each connected by a bar. These bogies relied on a dual leaf springs to support the arms holding half bogies, with each half supporting 2 pairs of rubber-rimmed road wheels, totaling 16 per side. The Zrínyi retained a small raised tensioning wheel at the front of the track assembly, aiding in track tension and obstacle negotiation. Just above this was the idler sprocket, followed by 5 return rollers that guided the upper track. Positioned between the final return roller and the rear drive sprocket was a distinctive mud scoop, designed to prevent debris buildup and maintain the sprocket's performance in rough terrain. The Zrínyi II was armed with a low-velocity 43M 10.5 cm howitzer, capable of a maximum range of 10.5 km thanks to an elevation range of plus 25 degrees to minus 8 degrees and a traverse range of 11 degrees to either side. It carried 52 rounds of ammunition, 30 38 33M high-explosive fragmentation shells, 16 42M heat rounds, and 6 39 33M smoke shells. Like many large-caliber artillery systems, the howitzer used 2-piece ammunition, with a shell loaded first, followed by a brass casing containing propellant charges. Some crews reportedly carried up to 30 additional rounds and propellant charges inside the vehicle, likely at the expense of crew comfort and storage space for personal gear. The Zrínyi II was operated by a crew of 4. The driver sat at the front right of the vehicle on an adjustable seat, while directly behind him was the loader, positioned within easy reach of both the gun breech and the R5A radio set mounted behind him. The commander sat further back and slightly to the left, in a precarious spot directly behind the sliding action of the gun breech. He had the option of sitting inside the vehicle or partially outside on the frame of the split hatch. Despite the danger, it was common for commanders to ride in this exposed position, as it greatly improved their field of view compared to remaining inside the cramped fighting compartment. Opposite the driver on the left side of the vehicle sat the gunner, who operated the howitzer and aimed using the sights in his position. Despite the delays in producing the 75mm gun for the Zrínyi I, the order of battle for the assault artillery battalions remained largely unchanged from when it was created during the Zapolch plan's introduction. The bulk of each battalion was to be made up of 2 batteries containing 20 Zrínyi Is, plus another for the battalion commander, with a third composed of 10 Zrínyi IIs. With the Zrínyi I unavailable, the battalion's organization remained unchanged, aside from them being equipped entirely with a 105mm assault gun. The first battery initially focused on familiarizing Hungarian infantry with the new Zrínyi II assault guns, participating in training both in Hungary and at the front. Shortly afterward, while supporting an infantry battalion near Otynia, they inadvertently entered a friendly minefield that had not been properly marked or reported. 2 Zrínyis struck mines and were rendered inoperable, halting the planned attack before it could begin. Despite the setback, the incident wasn't a total loss. Within a few days, a recovery mission was launched, and one of the damaged assault guns was successfully retrieved and returned to service. In spring 1944, as the 1st Hungarian Army battled Soviet forces in Galicia, the General Staff deployed the 1st Assault Artillery Battalion to support them. The 2nd Battery was the first to arrive, disembarking at Stanislavov on April 16th. Their combat debut came 5 days later, on April 21st, near Pohorodchany, where they successfully ambushed a Soviet anti-tank battery and infantry unit in a wooded area, reportedly inflicting heavy losses. Over the following months, the 2nd Battery operated as part of the rearguard during 1st Army's withdrawal through Ruthenia. Constant fighting, fuel shortages, and mechanical breakdowns took a toll, often forcing crews to abandon their Zrínyi IIs. Their last confirmed action occurred on July 29th at Vihoda, with only 3 assault guns remaining. After narrowly escaping encirclement, they reached Velika Kopania the next day. While the battery's later movement are unclear, it likely regrouped with the rest of the battalion and returned to Heimasker by late August. The 3rd Battery, delayed by rail network issues, arrived at the front after the 2nd Battery, with their first action occurring on April 25th, just southwest of Stanislavov, where they claimed to have destroyed 2 T-34s. They continued heavy fighting in Transylvania through the summer, until August 28th, when they handed over their remaining assault guns to the newly arrived 10th Battalion. This transfer was due to logistical issues, as only 2 of the 10th Battalion's batteries were fully mobilized and lacked sufficient Zrínyis. The remaining men either returned to Hungary or joined other batteries. Throughout early and mid-July 1944, All three batteries of the 1st Battalion saw heavy fighting, suffering weekly losses in men and equipment. On July 13th, tragedy struck when their commander, Josef Barancay, was killed in an airstrike on his command post. His death deeply affected the assault artillery branch, especially the 1st Battalion, which saw command pass between three other officers by war's end. The situation worsened on July 27th when an air raid destroyed the Weissmanfred factory, halting Zrínyi II production. By this time, only 66 vehicles had been delivered, including the initial 40, before the second batch was cut short. Originally intended to replace the 1st Battalion at the front, the 10th Assault Gun Battalion was redirected after Romania's sudden defection in August 1944 exposed Hungary's eastern border. With only 2 batteries ready, the unit was rushed to reinforce Transylvanian border defenses, arriving at San Simeon on August 28th. Their most notable action came during the Battle of Turda on September 22nd, when Soviet 4th Guards Rifle Division, supported by 50 tanks from the 5th Guards Tank Corps, broke through Hungarian lines. The 2nd Battery, under Commander János Bozoki, was positioned northeast of Torda with the 1st Hungarian Infantry Battalion. Concealed near a key road, Bozoki ordered his Zrínyis to open fire at just 50 meters, reportedly destroying or disabling 18 Soviet tanks within minutes. Later learning that nearby reconnaissance units had been encircled, Bozoki personally led a Zrínyi to break them out. Upon returning, he discovered his battery overrun and most of his men dead or wounded. Rallying the survivors and 3 operational vehicles, he led a withdrawal to friendly lines and later led an operation to recover the abandoned assault guns. For his exceptional leadership and bravery, János Bozoki was awarded the Officer's Gold Medal of Bravery, one of Hungary's highest wartime honors. After the costly campaigns in Galicia and the Carpathians, the 1st Assault Gun Battalion withdrew to Hungary, only to face a new Soviet offensive into Hungarian territory. By late October 1944, as Soviet and Romanian forces neared Budapest, most assault artillery battalions, including the 1st, were concentrated around the city and placed under Lieutenant General Ermo Bilnitzer in an ad hoc formation known as the Bilnitzer Group. Comprising roughly 2,000 men, the group fielded a mix of Zrínyi II's, Turán's, StuG III's, Jagdpanzer 38Ts, and various German and Hungarian artillery pieces. From the Soviet approach on November 3rd to the city's fall on February 13th, 1945, the assault guns battalions fought fiercely as part of the besieged garrison. It would also be during the siege where the final 6 to 10 Zrínyi II's assault guns would be built from the remains of 15 to 20 hulls that were dragged out from the rubble of the Weissmanfred factory. The last Zrínyi II would be completed in early November at the gun's electrical works located on the Buda side of the city, and would be practically driven out of the factory doors and onto the front line. All in all, this means that up to 76 individual Zrínyi II's were completed during the war, including the original prototype, which itself was built on the Turán prototype and in turn used as the basis for the Zrínyi I tank destroyer. As Soviet forces approached Budapest in late 1944, the 1st Assault Gun Battalion and remnants of the 1st Hungarian Armored Division were deployed to the eastern outskirts near Rakosaba. Their first action came on November 4th when the 3rd Battery attacked Ferihegyi Airport, now Budapest International Airport, reportedly destroying 4 T-34s and inflicting heavy Soviet casualties. Despite widespread communications breakdown during the siege, coordination came through occasionally. On November 5th, the 1st and 10th Assault Gun Battalions supported a German-Hungarian attack toward Pécs with the 8th SS Cavalry Division, reportedly forcing a Soviet retreat. On December 6th, the 3rd Battery joined the 10th in combat near Barachka and later helped retake the Kellenfeld railway station between December 25th to 28th. These successes came at a cost. Crews were frequently rotated or improvised due to mounting casualties, with soldiers often switching roles to keep Zrínyis operational. One officer compared the constant deployment to taxi service. Vehicles returned only to resupply before heading back into battle. Nevertheless, the battalion maintained cohesion until Pest fell. As the siege dragged on, the 4th SS Panzer Corps launched Operation Conrad I-III in an attempt to relieve the city. The 3rd Battery was scheduled to support a breakout on January 21st, but the plan was abandoned after Conrad III's failure. Fighting continued until Budapest's surrender on February 13, 1945. On February 9, 1945, the 3rd Battery ran out of ammunition, and before surrender, all unit records and remaining Zrinyis were destroyed to prevent their capture. The 10th Assault Gun Battalion primarily saw action outside Budapest, having been transferred to Székesfehérvár to help block a Soviet advance from a Danube bridgehead south of the city. Despite their efforts, the battalion was pushed back near Martonvásár before launching a counterattack on December 7th, reportedly recovering several abandoned Soviet artillery pieces. On December 20th, the battalion's commander sent the 1st Battery and the remaining 11 Zrínyi IIs into Budapest to reinforce the garrison. The other 2 batteries, now without assault guns, formed an improvised infantry company that fought around the University of Applied Sciences in Pest, though little else is known about their actions. The 10th Battalion later took part in a notable assault on Soviet troops resting at the Hungaria Körúti Stadium. Supported by the 3rd Battery of the 1st Battalion and a 150 to 200 man combat team, these Soviet soldiers were caught completely unprepared, with many reportedly being drunk. As such, they suffered high casualties. As the siege neared its end, the battalion destroyed the remaining vehicles and split into small groups to evade Soviet capture. One group reached southern Germany and surrendered to American forces, while others were captured in Czechoslovakia and Austria. Though the Pilnitzer group played a comparatively minor role in the siege, its units fielded some of the last best Hungarian armored vehicles of the war. After Budapest's fall, the Hungarian Assault Artillery Branch ceased to exist as an organized force, with remaining Zrínyi IIs either fighting locally or retreating westward, but, surprisingly enough, that was not the end of its career. While the Germans are well known for their use of captured or requisitioned vehicles during the Second World War, the Soviets also made heavy use of Axis equipment as their deep offensives often necessitated the use of any operable vehicles that could be found. As elements of the 4th Ukrainian advanced closer and closer to the Hungarian border, the 18th Army in particular allegedly found themselves in possession of several Hungarian tank models after heavy fighting near Ivano-Frankivsk, formerly Stanislavov, during August 1944. In total, they rounded up 15 Hungarian vehicles including 8 Turáns, 2 Toldys, 2 Nimrods and 3 Zrínyi IIs that were grouped alongside 17 other Axis vehicles to form a special tank battalion. After briefly seeing some action on 15th September 1944 at Uzhgorod, this special battalion was transferred to the 5th Guards Tank Brigade on 13th of November. Likely due to a combination of heavy use and lack of spare parts or mechanical knowledge of Hungarian tanks, only 13 of the original vehicles were still operational. This trend of mechanical issues would continue for the following weeks, with only 5 Turáns and 2 Zrínyi IIs being reported in action, with 3 Turáns and a Toldy being the only ones operable on the 20th. Come 1st January 1945, however, there were only 3 Turáns, 1 Toldy, and a single Zrínyi II being functional, with all the rest being either lost or in some form of disrepair. There is note of the Soviets finding the Hungarian tanks having inferior capabilities to their own. However, there is mention that the Zrínyi were at least some value thanks to its speed. After the war, much of Europe was littered with the wrecks of tanks and vehicles of all varieties and origin, especially in Eastern and Central Europe. What remained of the Hungarian army that had not already surrendered or been destroyed fled west as fast and far as they could. This included a handful of Zrínyi IIs that had been detached from their main unit or had otherwise managed to avoid destruction further south. A number of these Zrínyi IIs ended up in Czechoslovakia and were recovered by the newly re-established Czechoslovak forces. Of this, one Zrínyi II with the license plate number 3H000 was repaired by representatives of the military administration at Skoda. In 1950, this Zrínyi was handed over to an undefined tank training school and given the registration number of 62495. However, specifics of how the Zrínyi was used as a training vehicle and for how long it remained operational are unknown. Ultimately, the Zrínyi was most likely scrapped shortly after its history stopped being recorded. Today, a fully restored Zrínyi II remains on display at Patriot Park near Moscow, having been transferred from the Kubinka Tank Museum. Originally from the 1st Assault Artillery Battalion, it was captured by the Red Army in the summer of 1944, though its exact battery is unknown. Despite this, its survival offers a rare, complete example of Hungary's World War II armored forces. In conclusion, the Zrínyi II was a case of too little, too late. Despite its effectiveness and rapid development, the short-lived assault artillery branch suffered from limited production and manpower. With only 76 built, it's uncertain how impactful it could have been with better resources. Nonetheless, the Zrínyi II represented the pinnacle of Hungary's domestically produced armored vehicles during World War II, showcasing the nation's engineering capabilities despite the constraints of war. This concludes our look on the Zrínyi II assault gun. What do you think of this unique Hungarian assault gun? Let us know in the comments below. If you have not done so already, we invite you to subscribe to stay updated on future content. If you'd like to contribute further, consider supporting us on Patreon or PayPal. We want to especially thank our medium and heavy tank Patreon supporters, Dave Shufford, Sub-with-21, Dan Fitzpatrick, Owen M, and Ara Rob. Your generous contributions help fund our research, illustrations, and video production. Until next time, keep us in your sights.